sometimes it might be important to do an initial drug analysis, just a quick color test, see it's probably marijuana or something like that, so that they can get more information on the crime scene. But these are not enough for conclusive proof. That you go to the lab and they can get it there. Also, don't forget, drug paraphernalia is also evidence, like for crack. It's administered by breathing in the fumes. So often they have pipes where you heat up the pipe and you'll turn the crack into smoke, and the smoke will be inhaled. So the pipe itself is also part of the evidence. So make sure you collect the drug paraphernalia of the pipes, or maybe needles for heroin. On that note, you might see these things being sold in these like flower and glass, the cute little things that you might want to give your significant other because it looks so pretty. You might see this commonly found at gas stations. It's only recently that I learned that there's actually a sinister design behind these things being so popular at gas stations. See how this works? Like they have this little flower, maybe synthetic flower, I don't know, inside the glass thing here. If you remove the glass, the flower, you'll have a glass tube with a bulb at the end of it. These are used for crack pipes or crack inhalation paraphernalia. You shove the crack in there, you put the crack in there, you light it with a match or a flame below it, or in a stove maybe. I don't even know what they can use to light it up. Anyway, it smokes out and you breathe in the fumes from the other end. And they're popular in gas stations because that's where a lot of people, it's not like in front of anybody, in front of everybody else. So like these highway stop gas stations, they sell these. There can be a sinister motive behind the people buying these things. It's not just to look good on your dashboard. Anyway, that's just a minor thing that you might know. Anyway, the fact is, when the people are at the crime scene, another part of what they know is what they should know is what not to do. They do not taste a white powder and say, "Oh yeah, that's cocaine or heroin." They absolutely do not do this. They don't even smell it and try to figure out what it is. They do not even look at it when they hold up their faces and say, "Oh yeah, that's heroin, that's marijuana." They absolutely do not do this. They must not do this. First of all, you can get poisoned by the drug itself. What if it's fentanyl? I mean, a few crumbs of that will really just kill people, especially if they're not used to taking things like that. So the drug can poison a person. So they definitely do not hold it up to themselves and to try to find out what it is. Leave that to the laboratory personnel. They've got their goggles, they've got their face masks, they've got their gloves. They can do a better job finding out what it is. By the way, getting poisoned is not just from the drugs. These are criminals we're talking about. They may very well know that policemen are going to hold it up to their face. They're gonna just put a real poison right there, knowing that the policemen are gonna put it to their face. That way they'll kill policemen too with a poison. So you can't trust criminals. So don't hold this up to me. These things can be very dangerous. So let the laboratory personnel who can handle this, hold up their analytical tools. Because again, not just the drugs are poisoned, but real poisons they put there deliberately to kill. It also doesn't work. I mean, holding up to your face, how effective is that? Or even smelling it? It's not a good way of identifying things. Also, it's not even admissible in court. So what's the point? Better to do a real specific test rather than just holding up to your face or smelling it. So how do they analyze it? I mean, at this point we're going to go into the simple tests that are very quick and easy. That just produce a color. Now, there's a lot of different kinds of drugs and a lot of different ways of analyzing these drugs. And not just the drugs, but the precursors or the dilution solvents that are used. And an analyst has to actually think about, what criminals might have put there. They're unpredictable. I mean, they don't follow the law. So they might put things to dilute it that might be strange and confuse some of the tests. Or they might even put poison in there, hoping to kill whoever tries to get it when they don't want them to get it, like the police, or even a rival gang who might be selling these drugs. So again, the analyst has to be aware that there might be a lot of strange stuff in the stuff that they find at the crime scene. The test that the forensic analyst must do on these drugs, it must be conclusive. It is this drug, and specifically this drug, and it is here for a certain amount. They must know. They can't just have a cursory examination or even a presumptive test. They must get a conclusive test. They must test it more than once to make sure that it's the correct, it's the whatever suspected substance that they concluded it is. It's got to be defended in a courtroom, so they've got to get a clear answer as to what it is. The initial tests are called presumptive tests. They're quick and easy color tests usually that will tell the general class of drug, and it'll certainly narrow down the possibilities for future tests. And it can even be done at a crime scene because they have certain kits that will, as we can hopefully see soon, that they drop the suspected substance into this kit and it turns purple, so they know, oh yeah, that's LSD, or whatever the test might be. After this is done, it must be confirmed. They must have a confirmation test. This confirmation test should tell the specific identity of the substance. It's possible to have one test that will be only specific to one specific substance. It's possible, but you must confirm it. It must be a confirmatory test. They can have several different tests in an analytical scheme because maybe more than one thing can produce the same color result. So you've got to, in your analytical scheme, you've got to, let's say, precipitate or remove these other things that will cause the test of the thing to turn purple. Then, after they're removed, you can say there's only one thing that could be there, and we'll see if it's the drug. If it turns purple, then yeah, we know. So various analytical schemes can be used to exclude certain other non-drugs that'll make the test positive, or that'll actually ruin the test. So again, this is part of the confirmation when where you exclude interference. Also, spectroscopy is used. Now, spectroscopy, we might have seen this, you may know what it is, but in general, spectroscopy is when you shine a specific kind of a light onto a substance, and based on what light gets absorbed and what gets reflected, we can identify the substance. So the confirmation is often done by spectroscopy. We'll know what the substance is based on the light that it absorbs or gets reflected. So two things we have to know. One is the qualitative analysis, which is identifying what is this drug. We certainly have to know what it is. It might be a harmless thing like sugar. So we have to know what it is. You have to have a qualitative test. What is it? But we also have to know use a quantitative test. We have to know how much of this stuff is it. There are two reasons. Number one, if it's one of a Schedule 1, let's say, drug. A Schedule 5 or something like that. Maybe there's so little of it, it's actually legal to have. So we want to know how much is legal, how much they have, so we want to know if it's actually illegal or not. We have to know that. Or sometimes there are greater fines for larger amounts. Let's say 10 grams might have a low fine, but more than 10 grams is a high fine. So we have to know how much there is. And when it comes to, let's say, liquid solution,